Lena had grown used to living a double life, one version of herself for the world, and another she kept tucked behind the creaking door of her small bedroom. By day she was the dependable daughter who cooked breakfast before her father left for work, the makeshift tutor who helped her 14-year-old brother Ayan with homework, and the quiet girl who disappeared into chores without complaint. But by night, when the house settled into its familiar hush and only the ceiling fan hummed in the dark, Lena became something entirely different, an artist fighting against time. For months, she'd been working on a song. It was unlike anything she'd written before. This one wasn't for fun or escape. It was a piece carved out of the heaviest place in her chest, stitched together with memories of her mother. Before she passed away 3 years ago, their mother used to hum a lullaby whenever she cooked or folded laundry. Lena had recorded some of those moments on her old phone, not knowing they would one day become all she had left. Those fragments of sound now lived inside her music software, layered between melodies and beats she'd poured sleepless nights into. But the project wasn't just personal. It was also her last chance at a dream she'd buried out of necessity. The National Young Artist Scholarship accepted only 15 finalists every year. Winning it meant she could attend the music academy she had fantasized about since she was 12, the kind of place where students didn't worry about electricity bills or grocery lists. The kind of place her family could never afford. She hadn't told anyone she was applying. Her father carried enough weight on his shoulders, and Ayan still struggled emotionally after losing their mother. Lena feared they would think she wanted to escape, to leave them behind, even though her dream had nothing to do with abandoning anyone. She simply wanted something that was hers, something her mother would have wanted for her. As the deadline approached, the pressure tightened like a fist around her ribs. Tonight was the final recording session for the emotional bridge, the part that mattered most. She locked her door, slid her headphones on, and turned off the light. She needed to be alone to channel the kind of vulnerability the song demanded. Standing before the microphone, eyes closed, she took a deep breath. The room smelled faintly of jasmine. She always lit the same candle her mother used to love. The screen glowed softly, displaying the waveform of her unfinished masterpiece. Her hands trembled. She pressed record. Her voice started low, trembling, shaping the words she once whispered only to herself. Memories flooded her, warm touches, fading smiles, unspoken regrets. She didn't notice the tears slipping down her cheeks. She didn't notice how loudly she was singing. She didn't even notice the soft footsteps approaching. Her room. All she knew was that she was finally giving everything she had to the one dream she refused to let die. Lena was halfway through the most vulnerable section of the song, the part where her voice cracked on purpose, the part she had rewritten a dozen times to carry the weight of grief without drowning in it. Her headphones pressed tightly over her ears, shutting out the world. She didn't hear anything beyond the music pulsing through her veins, which is why she didn't hear the footsteps outside her room. Ayan had been struggling with his math homework for half an hour. He hated equations, and he hated bothering his sister even more. But tonight the assignment was due the next morning, and his father was working overtime. Usually Lena helped him before bed, but she had disappeared into her room right after dinner, saying only, "I need to finish something important." Ayan assumed she was studying. He didn't think twice. He walked down the dim hallway, clutching his textbook. The house was quiet except for the steady buzz of the old refrigerator. The lights flickered, once a normal occurrence in their neighborhood, but it added to the sense of loneliness he'd been carrying around lately. He needed someone to sit beside him, even if just for a few minutes. He knocked once. No answer. A second time, still nothing. Believing she was simply wearing earphones while reading, he turned the door handle. It wasn't locked. The moment the door swung open, Ayan froze. The room was dark except for the soft blue glow of Lena's computer screen. illuminating her figure like a silhouette on stage. She stood inches from the microphone, one hand trembling on the stand, the other pressed against her chest. Her expression was heartbreaking, eyes shut tight, eyebrows drawn, tears streaking down her face. She was singing with everything she had, her voice breaking in ways that didn't sound like weakness but like fierce honesty. Ian had never seen his sister like this. She looked shattered and strong at the same time. He stepped inside instinctively, forgetting why he had come. The rawness of her voice pulled him in, made him feel something he hadn't felt in months, a connection to their mother. It was as if the lullabies she used to hum had come back to life inside. Lena's trembling notes. Ian had always known his sister liked music, but he had never seen this side of her, the intensity, the pain, the longing. He felt like he was witnessing something sacred, something he had no right to interrupt. But she didn't stop, even when she glanced briefly toward the door and saw him standing there thin, wide-eyed, clutching his math textbook like a shield. She didn't stop. Her voice caught for half a second, not from embarrassment, but from deeper emotion. She squeezed her eyes shut again and kept singing, pushing through the bridge with an urgency that made Ian's heart squeeze. He stood silently, afraid to move, afraid to breathe. He understood instinctively that this wasn't a performance. It was a confession, and he realized, with a sinking heaviness, that his sister had been carrying far more than he ever imagined. When Lena's final note faded into silence, it hung in the air like a trembling threadjewel, beautiful and impossibly heavy. She stood still for a moment, her breath uneven, her fingers slowly unclenching from the microphone stand. For those few seconds, she wasn't aware of anything except the sound of her heartbeat thudding in her ears. The kind of heartbeat that follows a confession. Then she opened her eyes. Ian was still standing there, his math book slipping from his hands, forgotten on the floor. His eyes were glossy, wide with shock and something deeper, something that made Lena's stomach twist with dread. She yanked off her headphones. "Ian, what are you doing here? You can't just walk in." Her voice was sharper than she intended, half fueled by embarrassment and half by fear that her secret had been exposed in the worst possible way. But Ian didn't flinch. He wasn't looking at her with annoyance or confusion. He was crying that the tears weren't loud or dramatic. They were quiet, trembling tears that made his chin quiver and his shoulders shake. Tears he tried to wipe away quickly, as if ashamed. Lena's anger dissolved instantly. Hey, what's wrong?" She stepped closer, reaching out, but he took a half step back, not out of fear, but because he was trying to hold himself together. "I didn't know," he whispered. "I didn't know you were hurting like that." Lena froze. Ian took a shaky breath and continued, "I thought you were fine. You're always helping me." "You're always helping, Dad. You never," his voice cracked. "You never let us see you sad." His words pierced deeper than any note she had sung. He lowered his gaze, voice small but painfully honest. I thought you stopped dreaming because of me." Lena's eyes widened. "What?" "No, Ian. I heard you crying last week," he said, wiping his nose with the back of his hand. "And Dad said you were tired because of us. I thought I was a burden." The words sliced through her. A burden. She felt her chest ache in a way music could never express. She knelt in front of him, gently lifting his chin so their eyes met. "Ian, you are not a burden. Not ever. You're my brother. You're the reason I keep going, not the reason I stop." "But then, why were you hiding this?" His voice trembled again, looking at her microphone. The glowing screen. And that was the moment. Lena realized she couldn't protect him from the truth, not anymore. So she told him everything about the scholarship, about the academy, about the recordings of their mother's voice. about her fear that leaving for her dream might make the family feel abandoned, about how much she wanted to succeed not for escape, but for possibility. Ayan listened in stunned silence, absorbing every word, every crack in her voice, and when she finished, he didn't look scared. He looked determined, because for the first time he understood her, not as the sister who held the household together, but as a person with a dream she'd nearly buried under responsibility. The moment he walked in had changed something between them, something raw, honest, and unbreakable. After the tears dried and the truth settled between them like a fragile but newfound bridge, the air in the room felt different, lighter yet charged with purpose. Lena had expected many reactions from Ayan: fear, confusion, maybe even anger. But she hadn't expected what came next. Ayan stepped toward her recording setup with an expression far too serious for a 14-year-old. He stared at the microphone, at the waveform dancing across the computer screen, at the scattered notebooks filled with lyrics and scribbles. Then he turned to her, his voice soft but unwavering. "Tell me how I can help." Lena blinked. "Ayan, this isn't something you need to worry about." "I want to," he insisted, jaw tightening the way it did when he was determined to beat a level in a video game. "I'm not a kid. Not for this." It struck her then. He wasn't offering help because he felt obligated. He was offering it because, for the first time in years, he felt connected to her, to their mother's memory, to something meaningful. Lena hesitated, torn between her instinct to protect him and her exhaustion from carrying the weight alone. But Ayan didn't wait. He pulled a small stool next to her desk and said, "Show me what all these buttons do." A laugh escaped her lips, small, tired, but genuine. "Okay," she said, "but don't press anything unless I tell you." The first hour was chaotic. Ayan kept leaning too close to the microphone, making unexpected noises that ruined takes. He nearly deleted a file by accident. At one point he asked if turning a knob would make the song faster, like speeding up a TikTok video. Lena groaned and shoved his shoulder while he cackled. But slowly, unbelievably, he started getting the hang of it. He learned to organize her folders. He labeled her recording tracks. He watched closely as she adjusted audio levels and tried to copy her movements. And beyond the technical stuff, he did something far more important. He made sure she didn't give up. When their father knocked on the door asking for help with bills, Ayan answered instead. "Lena's studying," he said, guarding the secret like a soldier on duty. When she forgot to eat, he brought her a reheated plate, pretending it didn't matter that he had rushed to clean the kitchen first. When she grew frustrated with a stubborn segment of the song, he sat quietly beside her until the tension eased. For a boy who once hid his own sadness behind noisy games and messy jokes, Ayan had stepped into a new role one Lena didn't even realize he was ready for. One night, as she replayed a section of the song, she noticed something different. It wasn't the melody or the vocals. It was the feeling. For the first time since she had started the project, the room didn't feel lonely. The shadows no longer pressed on her chest. Her dream no longer felt like a selfish escape. It felt shared. Ayan looked at her, eyes glowing with fierce loyalty. "We're finishing this," he said. "Together." And Lena believed him because something had shifted between them. Something strong enough to carry both their hearts. The night before the submission deadline arrived like a storm, uninvited, heavy, and unforgiving. Lena and Ayan had been working for hours, fixing the final harmony layers and smoothing the imperfections that had crept into the earlier recordings. The room was warm from the computer's heat, and the air smelled faintly of jasmine and determination. Everything was finally coming together. Lena leaned in closer to the screen, eyes burning from exhaustion but heart pounding with hope. "Just one more render," she murmured, clicking the final export button. The progress bar crawled across the screen, slow but steady. Ayhan was pacing behind her, chewing the end of a pencil. He pretended to be calm, but every once in a while he whispered, "It'll work." "It'll work, right?" Lena nodded, though anxiety twisted inside her. "Yeah, it will." But the universe had other plans. Just as the progress bar reached 74%. The lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then everything died. The screen went black. The fan stopped spinning. The neighborhood went silent. And Lena's heart dropped into her stomach. "No. No. No, please, no." She cried, slamming the desk in panic. Ayhan, the file wasn't saved. The render wasn't saved. Her brother's face drained of color. "But the project? You saved it earlier, right?" Lena's voice cracked. "Not the last edits. Not the bridge we fixed. Not the backup layers. I thought I'd save after rendering." The power outage wrapped around them like suffocating darkness. Outside, the neighborhood groaned with frustrated voices. Their street was notorious for unpredictable electricity. Sometimes it came back in 10 minutes. Sometimes in 3 hours, and she had less than 4. Her breath quickened into frantic gasps. All those sleepless nights, all the whispered dreams, all the emotions she had poured into the piece, it felt like they had fallen apart in the span of a heartbeat. "I ruined everything," she whispered, sinking to her knees. Mom's voice. "The bridge?" "All of it." Ayhan didn't hesitate. He knelt beside her, gripping her shoulders. "No, we are not giving up. Not after everything you did. Not tonight. But what can we do?" She choked out, "We don't even know if the project file is intact." Ayhan looked toward the window, his eyes narrowing with sudden resolve. "I'm going to get help." Before she could stop him, he grabbed his hoodie, shoved his feet into sandals, and ran out the door. Lena wiped her tears and stumbled after him to the porch. "Ayhan, where are you going?" "To Hamza's house," he shouted, already halfway down the street. "He knows computer stuff, he fixes things." "Stay here, I'll be back." And then he disappeared into the dark. Minutes felt like hours. Lena sat on the floor beside her silent computer, trembling, replaying every memory of her mother, every part of the song she had fought so hard to create. She felt completely helpless. Then, after what felt like an eternity, the door burst open. Ayhan rushed in breathless, sweating, and behind him was Hamza, carrying a laptop and a tangle of cables. "Move," Hamza said, already plugging things in. "We're getting your song back." Lena stared at them both. Stunned. Hope flickered, but the clock was still ticking. The room felt like a pressure cooker as Hamza typed furiously, his fingers flying across the keyboard with a confidence Lena envied. He connected her corrupted hard drive to his laptop, running diagnostic tools she didn't recognize. Every minute felt like a stolen breath. Every second closer to the deadline was a tightening rope around her chest. Ayhan hovered behind him, wringing his hands. "Can you save it? Please tell me you can." Hamza didn't answer at first. He squinted at the flashing text on his screen, then exhaled sharply. "The file is damaged, but not gone. I can recover it, but some layers might be glitchy." "I'll take anything," Lena whispered, her voice raw. "Just, please, let me finish this." A few tense minutes later, the computer chimed softly like a heartbeat returning after a long silence. A folder appeared on the screen. Recovered_project_files. Lena opened it with trembling hands. The tracks were there, distorted in some places, missing effects in others. But the bones of her song, the melody, the vocals, the memory of her mother were still alive. Her voice cracked. "Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. No time for crying," Hamza said, though his grin hinted he didn't mind the gratitude. "Fix what you can. I'll stabilize your system." Ayhan pulled up a chair next to her. "We've got this," he said, echoing the same fierce determination he'd shown days ago. And together, the three of them worked through the night. They repaired broken layers, recovered missing transitions, rebuilt effects from scratch. By the time Lena exported the final version, dawn's first light had begun to seep into the room. The call to prayer echoed softly from the nearby mosque. Something in the air felt peaceful, almost like a blessing. She clicked submit just minutes before the deadline. Then she collapsed back in her chair, drained but triumphant. Ayan fist bumped her, grinning so wide it almost hurt to look at. "Told you. We finish this together." The next few weeks passed in a blur of normal life: school for Ayan, work and errands for Lena, chores that never seemed to end. She tried not to think about the competition too much. Worrying wouldn't change anything now. Then the email arrived. Lena stared at the subject line, her breath stalling. "Congratulations, finalist." Her knees buckled. Ayan screamed so loudly their father ran into the room, thinking someone was hurt. But the real shock came at the ceremony. Lena didn't just place. She didn't just become a finalist. She won the grand prize. Judges praised her work as emotionally raw, hauntingly honest, and unlike anything submitted in years. One judge even said her cracked vocals during the bridge were what made the piece unforgettable. Lena felt tears flood her eyes. She knew those cracks weren't acting, they were real. Her father hugged her, his voice shaking. "Your mother would be proud." "And so am I." Ayan stood beside her, beaming. "We did it, Lena." She wrapped an arm around him. "No, you saved me. You saved the dream." And as she prepared to leave for the academy, suitcase packed with hope rather than fear, she realized something profound. Her brother didn't interrupt her dream that night. He became the reason it came true.